All right, guys. Good morning again. Welcome. We are going to be having our World Mental Health Day talk right now. So come right in. We have a special guest this morning. Good morning, everybody. Go ahead and click on that share button for me right now, guys. Click on that share button. We're talking mental health today. So come right in, everybody. So while we wait on you to join and to click on the live, we have a little background music there. Chatty, multi-massive. You play song, fix up, leave people business alone. All right? Yep. So Marie, if you are here, I'm going to drop the link right here in the chat. So once you come in, guys, I want for you to go ahead and click on the share button. And as you can see today, guys, I'm wearing my shirt, Consistency Over Complexity. If you go on my website, www.tamarahyltons.com, then you'll be able to order one of these tank tops, they call them, or whatever you need. We have leggings, we have sweatshirts, we just have a wide range of things on the website. All right. So, all right, stop that for me, please, Amiel. Thank you, honey. All right, this is why I don't like to do StreamYard, because it's not as interactive as when I go live direct, but I have to use it today. So Marie, if you're here, I'm going to drop the link right here in the chat. Once you click on that link, it takes you to the stream and you're able to join. All right. So guys, if you are here, guys, drop a message and let me know that you are here. All right. Just drop a message and let me know that you are here. Comment in the chat, guys. So today we're talking mental health. Yesterday, the world celebrated Mental Health Day, and we are seeing where mental health is very much an issue in our society, where a lot of people are suffering from mental health issues. So while we take a sip on our tea, this is hot. So Amiel served me tea this morning. Thank you, Amiel. While we wait for you to join, guys, and I'm going to see if I can share the live up a little bit here so that you all can join the session. Come back in. I know some of you are going to work. Oh my God. Am I the only one on holidays today? So pretty much most people are on holidays today. Those people living in the States, Canada, should be on holiday today, right? Because it's Columbus Day, I think it is. It's been celebrated there. I'm not seeing anybody coming up in my chat. So we're waiting for you all to come up in the chat because we're talking mental health. And the theme for Mental Health Day is mental health. Am I forgetting the theme? Mental health in an unequal world, I think, yes. That's it. Mental health in an unequal world. So the fact of the matter is our society is faced with much inequity. And as a result of the inequity that we are faced with, a lot of people are suffering from mental health issues as a result of the inequity, whether it's gender-based, economical inequity, educational, whatever it is, or it could be ethnic inequity, whatever form of inequality or inequity that we're faced with. A lot of people are suffering from mental health issues as a result of such. So I am waiting for my guest, Marie, Nurse Marie Brown, she'll be joining in a bit. So once she gets here, we will be having that conversation about mental health and the importance of mental health and how you can maintain mental health, guys, despite the inequality that you may be faced with. I know even on the job, and you may be faced with inequality or inequity, whatever it may be, right? But it is important that we protect our mental well being. Similarly, as it is important to protect our mental or physical mental well being, we also need to protect our mental health. A lot of people think that, okay, you should be ashamed if you have mental health issues and if you are experiencing things like depression, if you are not dealing with life, having that balance that you would want to, then people look down on you. But at the end of the day, the reality is that many of us are faced with mental health issues for different reasons, right? Circumstances can alter our mental health, similarly like how circumstances can alter our physical health. So each day we get up, if we do not eat well, if we don't exercise, if we are not cognizant of what we put into our bodies physically, then that can have detrimental effects on our physical health. Same with our mental health. If we are not cognizant of what we put into our minds, how we treat our minds, then that can have detrimental effect on our mental health. So it is imperative, guys, that we focus also on taking care of our mental health, right? Just like how we're focused on taking care of our physical health. So I'm waiting for Nurse Brown to join. So, guys, I'm gonna ask you to come right in. Click on the share button for me. I want for you also to stay with us as we're going to be talking about mental health today. All right. So let's see if I can get Nurse Brown here with us now so that we can start this conversation, so that we can start this discussion. Amel, can you come and give me the remotes, please? So if you're here, guys, just drop a note in the chat and let me know that you're here. Amiel, please come and give me the remote. Drop a note in the chat, guys, and let me know that you are here. Yeah. So I'm still waiting for Nurse Brown to join us. Still waiting, still waiting. Nurse Brown, I hope that you'll be able to join still. Amiel? I think he's on Facebook on another device in the room, and I can hear him so loudly. My facial expression is something else. Hi, Amiel. How are you today? Thanks for joining in. Keep on sharing in the chat for me, Amiel. What you can do is ask those who come in to share. Amiel is on, so if you see where I am commenting, it's not me commenting, it's actually Amiel that is commenting there. So you can go ahead and share some love with Amiel. Let me see now. Let me see. All right. So while I wait for Nurse Brown to join, guys, I'm going to share this song here by my very good friend, Robert. Let me see if I can get him in, get her in. Just a moment. Okay, good. All right. Let me see if Nurse Brown is here. Hi, Demian. How are you? Good morning. How are you doing today? Hope that you're doing well. So go ahead, guys, and click on the share button. We're talking mental health today. And if you have any questions, I'm sorry, related to your mental health, feel free to drop it in the chat. Feel free to drop it in the chat. All right. Hi, Mavis. Good morning. Good morning. I'm trying to see what my video quality is like. Hold on. All right, guys. So I am waiting for our guest to come right in. I'm guessing that she's gonna be coming in a moment. In a dance song. So guys, help me share the live. Help me share the live. So we're talking mental health today, guys. That's what we're talking today. Mental health. Nobody love life. So once you come in, guys, just share. Hey, Carla, my high school girlfriend out of all the way in England. Good morning to you. How are you today? Guys, if you are here, click one time on the share button, guys. I want you to click for me. One time. Just click one time. Right? Hey, Miss Green, that's no problem. Stay blessed. All right? Just click on the share button one time, guys. If everybody clicks one time, we'll be able to build a good audience for this conversation this morning. This is something that we need to talk about. And not only that, it is something that more people need to become cognizant of. People are afraid and people are ashamed of talking about their mental health. And it's because of the attitude that we have towards people who have mental health issues, right? The reality is that mental health is not something to be ashamed of. It's not something to be to hide under the carpet. It is something that we should always deal with and make sure that we talk about it. Good family members, co-workers, colleagues, whomever it may be, have to deal with mental issues. And so yesterday, the world celebrated World Mental Health Day. And today we have a very outstanding young woman to talk about mental health. She's a psychiatric nurse here in the Turks and Caicos Islands. She worked in Jamaica for a number of years, and she's currently employed right here in Turks and Caicos. She's my friend. She's my church sister, and I'm going to introduce to you at this moment Nurse Marie Brown. Good morning, nurse.
Good morning,
How
and
are you
thank you
doing
for having
today?
me.
It's my pleasure. I am extremely happy to have you. Thank you so much for being here, even though it was a short notice. Um, you really decided that yes, you're gonna come because mental health. Sometimes I think I have to deal with mental health issues. Like I go through depression sometimes, right? And a lot of people are afraid, ashamed, Marie, to talk about mental health, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. So
And
first
I
off,
realized that you just give yourself a label, which is
which
something that a lot of persons do.
so you
Like,
said
for
I must
example, say
diagnose
that you are
myself.
depressed sometimes.
Hmm.
But are you really depressed, or is it that you're just having a bad day at some point in time? Because a lot of persons say that they are depressed, but it's
Hmm.
not that they are depressed. It's just that having just
Just
a
having a
bad
bad
day,
day.
or the Monday blues, or the
Hmm.
premenstrual syndrome where you feel sad
Yes.
and
No, no,
you
no.
feel down. It doesn't
Ho-
mean that you have a
Hold
depression or a
on.
mental health
Nurse
issue.
Brown. Literally, when it's like days before my period, that's when I feel it. That's when I feel it. So I'm
It
very
tends to
happy
happen
that
to me
you
too.
actually helped me to make that distinction this morning that I am self-diagnosing, but it's not necessarily because I am suffering from depression, because it's when my period is near. That's when I just, it's like my whole world flipped upside down. I just can't deal with myself. I can't deal with nobody. I'm on edge, and it's just crazy.
Right. So that is why a lot of persons tend to mislabel themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes person comes to the clinic and they will tell you that I think I have bipolar disorder, or they diagnose themselves with a personality disorder, or
Right.
they diagnose themselves mainly with
Mm-hmm.
depression or anxiety. And so
Wow.
sometimes when you basically do the assessment and to treat them, you actually have a problem because they've already asked Google
Wow.
and they come up with all different labels to give themselves that it's not necessarily correct or true.
Wow. So you're telling us that mental health is not pretty much what we perceive it to be. So what I want for you to do then, Nurse Marie, is give us a definition of mental health. What is mental health?
All right. So mental health is basically a positive state.
Mm-hmm.
Persons tend to look at mental health as being something negative when they attach it to insanity or stuff like that. But
Right.
we basically live on a continuum
Mm-hmm.
where you are well, and that
Mm-hmm.
is a mentally well person is able to make good decisions. You're able to work productively. I don't
Right.
know why I'm getting a feedback.
I think maybe because you have two devices. I'm not getting it on this end, right? So maybe if because you have two devices on, let me
And
mute one of them and see if you get it still. Are you still hearing it? You still getting the
let's
feedback?
yes. No, it stopped now.
All right, great, great.
All right. So when you basically look at the mental health, it is a
Mm-hmm.
positive state where you're able to work productively,
Right.
you're able to make good decisions, you're
Mm-hmm.
able to form good relationships,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
you're able to be able to help others.
Right,
And
right.
that's basically what mental health is.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So we sometimes even define mental health incorrectly. So mental illness, on the other hand, is when there is a disturbance in that
Mm-hmm.
continuum where
Mm-hmm.
your thoughts are affected, and so
Right.
your moods are affected, your
Mm-hmm.
behavior is affected.
Yes.
Because in order to be diagnosed with a mental health issue, it
Mm-hmm.
must be that one of the core areas of your life, or one or more of the core areas of your life, must be affected. That is
Mm.
your personal life, your
Right.
relationship,
Mm-hmm.
your ability to work or perform at
Mm-hmm.
school.
Wow. I am so happy, Nurse Marie, that you have made that distinction for us because so many of us walking around thinking that maybe we have mental health issues because we go through that monthly depression, or we're having that Monday blues, as you say. We're probably having a bad day because we went to bed late the night before and we're on edge. We didn't sleep well, or maybe we didn't eat, right? And we're not feeling so well. So I'm very happy that you have made that distinction. And guys, if you have questions, go ahead and drop it in the chat so that Nurse Marie can answer your questions as we continue with our conversation. Did you have a presentation for us this morning, Nurse Marie?
Just to talk a little bit about our topic.
Okay, I thought you. I noticed that you have two devices on, so I thought you wanted to share a PowerPoint or something like that. No,
I'm on my phone. I'm not
you're
sure.
connected. Oh, you connected 2 times, but that's fine, no problem. So yesterday was World Mental Health
So is
Day.
it possible that we could delete one because I'm still getting a little
All
bit
right.
of speed.
So what I will do then, I will remove this one from this.
So remove one.
Yes. Yeah.
I think, yeah, that's better. I'm not getting the feedback now.
All right, great. All right, so the theme for World Mental Health Day, tell us about that theme, Nurse Marie.
All right, so the theme for this year's World Mental Health Day is mental health in an unequal world. I specifically did not do anything like putting on any makeup or do anything to my skin for one reason.
Tell us.
To look at how people view others around them. So we look at the inequalities. So if, for example, I am nicely dressed, or I have this nice hair on and my face is nicely made up, and I look a particular way, I'm going to be treated a particular way.
Wow.
Versus you being all natural.
Right.
You're just going and doing what you do. But that does not mean that you are having a mental health issue, even though you are treated differently. So the inequalities that we face is something that occurs on a day-to-day basis. So people are often treated, are given certain opportunities based on how you look, based on the family that you were born in, based on who you know.
Yes.
And sometimes, just like a criminal record, people with a mental health condition, whether it be diagnosed or presumably so, are often treated in the same way, in like a similar manner. In terms of one person, sometimes person put a label on you. It doesn't mean that you are mentally challenged, but if, for example, someone see you disabled, because there are a lot of persons who are even street persons that are not mentally challenged. They live on the street. So because persons see you on the side of the road, or someone may see you talking to yourself, then you are given a label as being mentally challenged. But it doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with you mentally. When persons are, for example, someone is diagnosed or they are assumed to be mentally ill, they are often stigmatized. They're often demoralized, and we see sometimes where persons throw stones at them on the road. If you come to church, that nobody wants to sit beside you. If you are in the park, people will run because you are just viewed as being dangerous. People will walk so far from you, and even when you look at how persons with mental health conditions are being treated, is that if say you have a job to do and you are willing to pay someone who, because that person may have a name or that person may have a company, you may be willing to pay that person probably a whole lot of money, versus the mentally ill person who you basically want to work for nothing. So there are different things that contribute.
And it happens so much in Jamaica, in our own community. It happens. And even here too, once you see people with mental, that we perceive, as you say, they dress and they look a particular way, then they are treated with that much disregard. And it's really sad. Wow.
But even now that we are even approaching the COVID-19 pandemic, I think specifically the theme for this year is spiraled by the amount of inequalities that is happening around us. So when we look closer at what is happening with the COVID pandemic, I remember the other day I heard our health minister, the Jamaica health minister, was saying that he was surprised at the number of persons who are, say, I don't remember the exact word that he used, but the amount of persons who then would be in the hierarchy who are diagnosed with COVID-19. Because we recognize that the perception would have been that it would have been the poorer countries, the less fortunate, would have been dying left, right, and center from COVID-19. And so when the flip occurred and they realized that COVID-19 is everybody getting it.
Exactly.
So the inequality start brewing where the richer countries, when the COVID vaccine came out, the richer countries took on that initiative and they buy it all.
Right.
So it ends up now with the poorer countries getting very little. And I'm coming to the mental health effect of it.
Yes,
so it looks like I'm speaking COVID-19. But we recognize that even though the cases may not be that high in some countries, we may not have the death rate as France and Germany and Mexico and even the United States. For example, Caribbean countries do not have that amount of death rate as some of those bigger countries. However, when you look at the protocols or policies, they are same throughout the world.
Wow.
When we look at it's like we are putting a one size fits all, and that breeds inequality and mental health issues. Because, for example, when we initiate the lockdowns, I look at Jamaica particularly because I am Jamaican and how it affects the Jamaican people. Now, the persons, I grew up in a rural community where you have the person selling at the school gate. And Jamaica is well known for street food. So everywhere you go, you see a jerk stand, all of that. Right? The lockdowns and all of that is implemented, and the weekend lockdowns where the small man make their money. It breeds frustration because now we have the inequality in terms of distribution of wealth. So you have the corporate offices. They basically still operate from Monday to Friday, so they are able to make their money. However, the poorer persons are affected tremendously. And so, in order to cope with all that is happening, you realize that one, divorce rate is increasing, and that put mental health strain. So when we look at the inequalities that we go through, so the inequality when it comes to distribution of labor. So it's usually the lower persons who end up losing their jobs. Your hours get cut. You basically end up with little or nothing.
Wow.
So not being able to provide for your family adequately pose a challenge. The number of lockdowns pose a challenge too. So you have persons who are small business operators who may have borrowed a loan to start up a business, and there comes the COVID pandemic, and there comes the number of lockdowns one after another. This person may not be able to pay their loans that they had borrowed, having problem now taking care of their families, business closed down. And there we have a person with potential for depression, potential for anxiety, potential for substance use. And when you look around now, you realize that studies have shown that during the pandemic, alcohol sales and alcohol consumption and they have increased tremendously. And you also realize that there are more persons being diagnosed with alcoholism. In addition to that, there are persons who are using other substances.
Right.
So you see persons using marijuana more. You see persons using like probably crack cocaine, Molly, another common one.
What is that? I don't know what that is.
It is a stimulant, the same thing that they call ecstasy. That they drug, right? That stimulant that gives you that high.
Well,
So
I
we
know the word.
recognize.
Just know that other one. Like the name. What was the name? Molly? What you call it?
Molly, that is what it is called here in Turks and Caicos. So when you go to
Molly?
school, they can ask the students about Molly.
What do you call it? Molly?
Molly, Molly.
Are you serious? I'm gonna ask them about it tomorrow. Like,
Because that is one of the drugs that a lot of young people use. So I realized that, for example, in Jamaica, where that one may not be that popular, so you will find more Jamaican teenagers smoking marijuana.
right,
But
right.
when you talk to, for example, the substance abuse counselors here, they will tell you that sometimes Molly is one of the drugs that is used a lot. So ecstasy, especially in young persons.
Wow.
So when we look at how
There's a question on the screen for you, Marie, Nurse Marie. What you people think the government should have done? I am guessing it's in regard to the shutdown and the lockdown, Trevor. So just clarify that question, please, so that we can answer it as best as we can. All right. So in terms of what should the government have done, are you referring to COVID-19 and the actions that they have taken? Let us know. Yes, yes. So he said
right.
yes.
So he's talking about the COVID-19.
Yeah, the pandemic. I think that's what he's referring to. I think pretty much what the government should have, for me, the government should have provided more incentives for individuals who were affected by the pandemic. I think too many people, they lost their livelihood and people started suffering. That's what I think, right? And that is why it is so difficult now to control the spread of the virus in Jamaica, because at the end of the day, if you're going to take away somebody's livelihood, you have to provide something for them in exchange for that, right? How do you expect people to survive? And just this morning, I was listening to a presentation from Lisa Hanna, and she was speaking, Marie, about what the minimum wage in Jamaica is. You're looking at $47 for the week. How can you live off $47? That just don't make no sense. You understand what I'm saying? Right? And there are a lot of people living below, well, pretty much minimum wage and below in Jamaica. Some people don't have no jobs. So how do they survive? And then when people, they're doing their hustling now, yes, the pandemic would have affected them. But at the end of the day, if you take them off the street, give them some stimulus. How much stimulus were they given? I don't know, right? So I remember $10,000 or something like so. I don't remember anymore. And they're still in lockdown.
My view on it too is that and this is just my take, right? This is my personal view. Is that the world is put in a one size fits all, and that should not be, because we have to realize that there are a lot of factors that shapes our countries and shape our people. You have culture, for example. We all know that Jamaica, once you start pushing things down Jamaicans' throat, you're just going to get rebellion and hesitancy. And so bringing on a one-size-fits-all mentality is not going to work, because we would have realized that, for example, in the Caribbean, yes, deaths have increased. However, I think that basically coming out of the same reports that spoke about COVID-19, you would have recognized that, and I normally go on like Facebook and stuff and read some of the comments. I read the comments to see exactly what persons are facing, especially when you come up with a news report. So you see the newspaper putting out these things. What can be done? So even though the lockdowns and stuff like that may be necessary, you have to look at where you are, what are the resources that are available. Because when you put the persons in a box, what exactly is going to happen is that throughout the world, you realize that crime rate is increasing. And so the focus is shifted from really managing the country and focus on managing COVID-19. So we should look at the thing in a holistic manner. Because, for example, we also look at the inequalities. Vaccine mandates. Coming up with a mandate for vaccine, you don't do you have enough to give everybody? I realized the other day, when, for example,
they had almost 300,000 vaccine expiring or about to be expired, and they don't want to take the vaccine. So there is enough in Jamaica right now. They just
we
don't want
also have to look at, as a mental health professional, I look at vaccine hesitancy. In that, persons may, all right, looking at the inequalities too, where, for example, the Pfizer vaccine may have been considered to be the one with the least side effects. Right, the best. And they portray that one to be the best. AstraZeneca was viewed as being the one that contributes to people getting blood clots, people getting a lot of problems. No, I am going to speak for myself. If you should put me in a position where people would have known, friends or family or they themselves that may have had COVID-19 and recovered, and to be put in a situation where there is a high risk for you to get a blood clot in your lungs or in your foot or in your brain, maybe your brother, your sister, or your auntie may have taken it overseas and have gotten it. No, the vaccine hesitancy stems from that a whole lot in terms of the fear of getting sick. You look at the fact that around you, mind you, when it presents itself to say, okay, and then again, the government's flip-flop too much. So if it is that you come with all the information straight up to say, okay, this is the situation. When they come in with the COVID vaccine is something new. We have never in all our lives gotten an mRNA vaccine. And even, I think the Johnson & Johnson one that they say have an organism in it, it is not COVID, it is adenovirus that they get from the chimpanzee. So while we are used to getting a vaccine with either the live or the dead virus, now we're getting something new. We're getting something that kind of hack your system and you create the spike proteins and whatnot. And then again, persons also look at the fact that getting the vaccine does not prevent you from getting COVID. And so the hesitancy comes in terms of what are my risks. If I take the vaccine, there's still the risk of getting COVID. There's also still the risk of getting a blood clot somewhere, and then persons getting anxiety. And they say, okay,
the risk associated with having COVID-19, those risks outweigh what you get from taking the vaccine.
I would say that is debatable. In terms of, there are many persons who have gotten COVID-19 who have no symptoms at all. While there are some persons who have gotten COVID-19 and may have gotten sick. There are always respiratory conditions around us. For example, I can speak for myself. And this is, if I look at the fact about vaccination hesitancy and how people actually feel. All right, I personally, 1 month after I got my second vaccine dose, I got a deep vein thrombosis in my leg. I am struggling up to this date. I'm still taking anticoagulants. Sometimes my feet hurt me like crazy. I was going to Jamaica in August, and I went down in a wheelchair. Being in Turks and Caicos,
was it as a result of you taking the vaccine?
It was a month after I took it. I was quite fine. After I took it, I started feeling sick. After my first dose, I have headache for about a week. I felt weird. I felt strange. Until when I was supposed to take the second dose. I even went to take it a day late because I didn't want to take it because of how my body felt. My whole body felt like it changed. Now, after taking the second dose, I started feeling away. I started getting cramps in my legs. I have to be getting out of bed and walking around the house and stuff like that. Then I got a clot.
Wow.
No, I am not saying that it is a vaccine. I'm not saying that
associate the clot with the vaccine. Was it associated with the vaccine? Because
no, that is another thing.
You had an issue dealing with before, and the taking the vaccine probably just elevated the symptoms or
right. So
whatever.
I look at the fact that probably I was taking something else. So probably taking the vaccine would have increased my risk.
Right,
So
right.
I have a child who lives with me, and I have, for example, my parents. No, it initiated that type of fear to say, well, I may not want to take it because I see how you suffered after you have taken it. I was quite fine. I was healthy. I was up and about. There was nothing wrong with me. And here I am, still struggling. Still struggling. Sometimes I feel so I don't even know what's going on in my body. They did all the tests that is supposed to be done. Everything come back negative. So I don't have a medical condition. I don't have an autoimmune condition. But here I am struggling post-vaccination. And so my family may have hesitancy in taking the vaccine. So it doesn't mean that they are anti-vaxxers because they don't want to take it. It's just because they saw what I go through. So when I think of mental health impact of it, is that I still have not vaccinated my 17-year-old because I think of it to say, I am healthy. I think I had a good immune system. I've never been sick. I have absolutely no underlying health conditions. And I just don't feel good post-vaccination. And so me having the hesitancy to give it to my child, it doesn't mean that I'm an anti-vaxxer. It just means that mentally,
because of what
and the mental pressure that I went through, I would not want her to go through that. So we also have to look at the fight now between the vaccinated and the unvaccinated, which brings on the inequalities of that and the mental pressure that is causing. There are a lot of persons who get really stressed out and weary about that. I can tell you. There are many persons, even for example, here in Turks and Caicos, where the policy now is that in order for your work permit to be renewed, then you would have to be vaccinated. So there are a lot of persons who are not ready, who say that they are not ready. This is something new. That they're not ready. They're not ready yet to take the vaccine. But the mental pressure comes on in terms of, well, if I don't take the vaccine, then I may not have a job. I'm going to be sent home. How am I going to take care of my children? How am I going to pay my bills? What am I going to do? And so you realize that the inequalities and the pressures that you face, the inequalities where persons who are looked at to say, okay, if you are vaccinated, if you are unvaccinated, then you put others at risk for getting COVID. But if you are vaccinated, you can still get COVID and transmit it. And so as fully vaccinated people, sometimes we are just basically licensed carriers.
Wow.
Yes, we may look at it that
I want to say something in regard to what you said there, though, especially about mandatory vaccine, because for me, Nurse Marie, vaccine has always been mandatory. And that is why when it was time to take vaccine, I never had no issues. I never had no problems. Matter of fact, they started issuing vaccine here like the Monday, and by the Wednesday, I got my first shot, right? I'm saying this to say that from ever since I was born, or when my baby was born, he got a vaccine. It's mandated. And my thing is, I'm not sure why a lot of people have hang-ups about taking the COVID-19 vaccine, especially when we see how detrimental this pandemic has been. So many people are dying, right? People may have concern about what's in the vaccine and so on. And I know there's so much information out there about what's in the vaccine. But at the end of the day, I believe we can be in a better place taking the vaccine than if we don't take the vaccine. Yes, there are side effects, right? But in the long run, I think it will help us to get to a better place mentally if we have a population that is vaccinated.
All right. Thinking about it mentally and being a mental health professional, right?
Right.
If they had wanted, I think one of the main issue that results in the hesitancy in a lot of times is the inconsistency when it comes down to information.
Mm-hmm,
So
mm-hmm.
if it was that they come out and say, okay, this is
I
the
agree with
situation,
that.
how
I
they
agree
tell
with
it.
the information.
And
People,
so,
I mean, coming from CDC, there has been a lot of inconsistency.
And so it is the makers of the vaccine, it
Mm-hmm.
is the ministers of health, it
Mm-hmm,
is basically how the vaccine is sold that contributes to the inconsistency or the hesitancy. If it was
right.
like they come out and say, okay, this is what it is,
Mm-hmm,
this is what we have,
mm-hmm,
and this is how we are going to proceed, and
mm-hmm,
these are the results that we are looking for.
right.
Right? And so you
Mm-hmm,
come up with the surety to say that,
right.
okay, if for example you get a phone and you know
Mm-hmm,
that if you dial the number, then the call is going to go through and all of that.
mm-hmm,
But if they
mm-hmm,
come out and this
mm-hmm,
month it's one
mm-hmm,
thing, next
mm-hmm,
week it's a different
mm-hmm,
thing, the next
mm-hmm,
2 weeks is a different thing. You hear
mm-hmm,
that, okay, you would have to get 2 doses of the vaccine to be
mm-hmm,
considered fully vaccinated. And now, a couple months later, you are now told that you're going to need a booster. No, you're
yes.
you're going to
But
further get
but
some hesitancy when you come on to
nurse,
the booster.
Nurse Marie, remember booster. Why do we need a booster? And if you notice that we have actually started issuing the booster shot here in the Turks and Caicos Islands, which is absolutely awesome, right? Because I believe it is necessary and it is important, right? Why do we need a booster? And who needs the booster? That's what we have to look at. Who needs the booster, right? It is not everybody who needs a booster, right? It is those people whose immune system that's at risk that actually needs a booster. So those people who are suffering from underlying health issues, those people who are over 50, the elderly, which would be the more vulnerable, they are the ones who need that booster shot because they need to build and they need to maintain their immune system because the older you get, the weaker your immune system gets. And that is why the booster is needed, right? And
All right.
for me,
So I am not, what I'm saying, I'm not saying
mhm,
that there is anything wrong with getting the vaccine or getting the booster. Because, for
right,
example, I personally got the hepatitis B vaccine. And Hep
mhm,
B vaccine is 3 shots. So
mhm,
you get three vaccines. When I
right,
was taking the Hep B vaccine, I knew that I was going to take 3.
right.
It's not a if or but. It's not a flip-flopping
Mhm,
all around the place to say, today you need 1,
mhm,
tomorrow
mhm,
you're going to need 2, the next
mhm,
day you're
mhm,
going to need
mhm,
boosters. No.
mhm,
So when I went to take my Hep B vaccine, I knew from day 1 that I'm going to
right.
have to take 3.
But Nurse
And
Marie,
so
how
when we look
long
at, hold on, let me
has
finish.
hepatitis B been around in comparison to COVID-19?
No, what I'm saying, I'm not saying that anything is wrong with
Mhm,
the vaccine or whatever. I'm saying it is
right,
the approach that brings
right.
about the mental strain, the
Wow.
anxieties, and
Yes.
the hesitancy. So
Mhm.
I'm not saying
What if Nurse Marie, what if we have an open mind, right, in dealing with this pandemic instead of closing our minds? What if we think outside of the box? Because I find that if I have an open mind when I'm dealing with issues, it doesn't affect me mentally. But if I have a closed mind towards it, it has a it has a lot of strain on me mentally. But if my mind is open towards dealing with the issue, right? Why is it that we can't have an open mind in dealing with this pandemic, knowing that? And I see where I'm going to take. We want to take some of the comments. And we're going to take some of the comments because I want for you to probably
let me
address
answer you and then you
it.
take it, right?
Right?
So
What
in
if we have
response
an
to that,
open mind? I mean, how does having an open mind help us to be mentally healthier in comparison to having a closed mind?
all right. So in response to that is that we are all unique. We
Mm-hmm.
are all different people. And
Yes.
so, because we're all unique and we're all different, it is that you may view things different from the way I view it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
When it comes on to my own health, my own body, I
Mm-hmm.
view it differently. It is something new. It is something that persons need to process.
Right.
It is something that we have never taken before. It is that persons are really struggling. We look at the fact that sometimes I don't really think that everybody have a closed mind. Yes, in everything that you do, persons will have closed minds. But I think when it comes on to the inconsistencies, that is what is bringing more of the anxieties, the stress, the fear, and the hesitancy than it is that people have a closed mind. That is just my view. I don't really think that a lot of people have closed mind to it. I just think that if they were consistent, come straight across the road and say this is what it is, I think more persons will be open and ready. So you can go ahead with your comment.
And I think based on what Mitzi, hey Mitzi, how are you doing? Babsy, hey TP, how are you? Welcome. Miss Sharon, welcome guys. We're talking this morning with Nurse Brown. She's a psychiatric nurse right here in the Turks and Caicos Islands. And we are looking at mental health. Yesterday, we celebrated World Mental Health Day under the theme, Mental Health in an Unequal World. And we're looking at the fact that one of the things that we're struggling with and bringing about mental health issues is inequality with dealing with COVID-19, persons not having access to vaccine, while other persons, they have, access to it. Some persons have access, they're not using it, and just so many things happening, right? So we want to just look at some of your comments now and maybe, talk about what you are sharing or what you have shared. So we see where October's very own said, there has to be something ethically and morally wrong with persons having to choose between making a living and taking a vaccine. Nurse Brown, tell us about that. And how does that affect us mentally? Because I think that's the point you've been you've been bringing across there rather, right? The fact that you having to make that choice between living and taking a vaccine is going to have, some mental effect on you, right? So,
all right. Personally, I think that when we look at ethics, we may consider it to be ethically wrong, but not really. It is like somewhat a force. I don't think anyone should be forced in terms of you have 10 rights to medication. So if you want to, you have a right to refuse, you have a right to self-determination. You have an accountability for yourself and others. And so I think persons struggle with that. Also, when we look at the Declaration of Human Rights, your right to choose for yourself, persons feel like that is impinged on. And so it brings about fear, it brings about stress, and it is going to bring about some amount of anxiety and hesitancy. Because, for example, if we look at in the United States, there are not a lot of nurses now who are walking off the jobs. There are a lot of nurses who are resigning their positions.
A lot of nurses who are dying as a result of contracting COVID-19.
Hold on, because they are saying that during the pandemic, when the cases were high, and a lot of people were dying, they were forced to work on these front lines with very little PPEs. They did not die, but now their jobs are being ripped away because they have thoughts about taking the vaccine and they are not ready to be pushed to take it. And so we recognize the inequalities. How is it that the pandemic, I mean, yes, you would have worked hard, you put your life on the line to save the lives of persons who are dying. But now, when cases are going down and all of that, you would probably have access to stuff. You are now being told that if you are not vaccinated, then you would be probably placed in an area of administrative duties or you will be dismissed from your position. And that brings about some amount of stress. Probably, as I said before, it's all the things are being introduced. So when we think about persons, we are all unique. And when we look at the mental health state of persons, is that how you say things and how you do things affect the response. And so if it's done like a different way where persons do not feel forced, and mind you, we also have the defense mechanisms. So even if you're in a relationship and you feel like your spouse is forcing you to do something, then you're going to get rebellious. Naturally, your defense mechanism is going to kick in. And you're going to say, but you met me this way and we have struggled together. So why is it that now you just want to push this thing down my throat? So it depends on, as I said before, it's how it is done that sometimes brings about
the response.
the issues. Right, the responses. So there's nothing wrong with the
I see a very long comment that we're going to address in a moment. But nurse, don't you think for the nurses who worked on the front line, right? And these are the things that I think, and I see where Babsy say the rumors going around, right? The conspiracy theories and, people just having their own ideas and people bringing about unnecessary anxiety and stress, right? Because of what they are feeding their minds on, right? So we see Nurse Marie, where, and again, I'm going to say, I think it's a little bit hypocritical for the nurses who are working on the front line. They saw firsthand, right, the effect of COVID-19 and how many people died, right? And how we literally, for that first year, we were dying to get a response and to get an answer to deal with this problem of COVID-19. And then when the answer comes around, we have them backing down to say, we're not going to take the vaccine, give us an option, whatever. I think that is so hypocritical on the part of the nurses. That's what I think. And I think when people like them who knows and understand the impact of COVID, not only on our physical body, but also on our mental capacity, and yet still they refuse. They are the one that's, for me, instigating further problems and mental issues in our society. That's what I think.
I would say that I would have a different view. My view is that because it is something new and it is somewhat still going through clinical trial, and that is why it is changing. When you look at the ethics, somebody brought out ethics earlier. If we look at the ethics of research,
right.
And I'm sure you're aware of the ethics of research in terms of you must not pay your participants, and persons should not be coerced to participate in a study. You should be given the opportunity to withdraw at any time during a study. If initially, because it is still not known exactly how this thing works, and so we have the inconsistency. One may look at it that it is unfair to me that I should be mandated to participate in a clinical trial. Because when we look at the ethics of research, it is that participants should be willingly allowed to participate in a study and should be allowed to withdraw at any time.
They were not done ethically, and persons were coerced into getting them done. Is that what you're suggesting?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that when we look at the ethics of research, and when the vaccine just came out, you were told that FDA approved the vaccine for emergency use.
Right.
When and where and how have you ever seen a drug that is designed for emergency use being mandated by anybody? It was not. And so when we look at the fact that persons are not
nurse, we have to look at hold on. When did we ever have to deal with a pandemic like this, of this nature?
That is what I'm saying. That we also have to look at the fact that persons are equipped with information. Persons are equipped with their own knowledge. Persons have their own theories. Yes, you have the conspiracy theorists and all of that comes into play. But what I want to bring across is that I personally think that person should still be given a choice. In that, it is still a trial to some extent. Yes, Pfizer have given approval. And also, hold on, let me say something else. Also, I remember hearing the Jamaica Prime Minister in media report stating, and I think this was a big blunder for him to even have said that, to say two things he said that really upset my spirit. One was that when he spoke about the persons who bought the half a bread and the half stick of butter. I don't know if you have listened to that one. And the corner shop and not wearing their mask and whatever. Yeah. I remember in the same period of time when that thing was done, I saw DJ Khaled in Jamaica profiling on social media, and him and nobody that was in his entourage had a mask on either. So where does the you see, realize the inequalities that comes right there. So you
and I totally man. That there are many inequalities.
So when you look at the inequalities where that is concerned, so you blame the poor man on the corner to say, you probably are some of the instigators for this thing, because you go to the corner shop or wherever. But what about the persons who are in the upper class? What about
let's take a break and read some of the comments. Let's take a break and read some of the comments. All right. There's one that I can't put on the screen because it's gonna block our faces out. So October says, the way the vaccine was sold to persons is that it would have been the end goal as far as a cure for this disease. So the first set of information that was put out there was made to make people feel like once they took the vaccine, they would not be contagious. And for the most part, there was no risk of spreading of spread or fatal illness, only to find out later that on that, at the end of the day, you can still carry the amount of viral load, whether you're vaccinated or unvaccinated, which contradicts the information. Am I missing out some of this information here? I think I am. Let me see if I can show it on the screen. Okay. All right. I think I didn't miss any. Hey, Anita, Mitzi says, let's see what Mitzi says. Mitzi says, for people in the education and health field, vaccine have always been mandatory for our jobs. Exactly, right? COVID vaccine is just an addition to the list. Therefore, this is nothing new. Absolutely nothing new here. I agree with you on that. Trevor says, I think I can put this one on the screen. I had the COVID and it caused a blood clot. So I had a mild heart attack when they admit me to the hospital. They only treat the heart attack. I had to treat the COVID myself. Mark you, I never had it that bad, right? There you go again. And I spoke last week, guys, about the side effects of COVID-19, right? Well, the long term, that is. Trevor, need to ask you if you're a scientist, Marie, so you can go ahead and answer that question. No, we're not getting Marie off, so nobody come with that, Mr. Trevor, all right? You need to listen full, okay? All right, so, all right, he came and clarified that. So, yeah, so he clarified it, but for me at the time too, Marie, it never sounded good, and it never come across well for me when he actually said that, the poorer people, and, especially when they alluded to the fact that those who buy half a bread and so on. I'm like, listen, we grew up by half a bread, so we know exactly how that feels, for somebody to discriminate against you in that manner. So that was kind of sad to have that coming from the mouth of the Prime Minister, right? So yeah.
So it goes back to what I was saying in terms of how is it that you sell the information. And mark you, no, I am not a scientist. No, I am not against vaccine because I took both my doses. I got a clot after, I may not take the booster, but I did take both my vaccine doses. I am not saying that anything is wrong with the vaccine. I'm not saying that there is anything wrong with it. All I'm saying is that if we look at the inequalities that comes in terms of, for example, I also listened and I heard again, this was the second thing that I was going to mention, that the Prime Minister did mention that I think was sort of unreasonable. In that, when he mentioned that he cannot hold the adults to give them the vaccine in their arms. But once the vaccine is approved by FDA, they can give it to the children. And so to get the target, then no, because you cannot force the adults and you have a target to reach, then the inequality come in to say that you're going to force the children because you can force them. But while you can't force an adult, then you
goes back to the point that vaccine has always been mandated. from you are born. When my son was born, he got a vaccine. I don't remember the name of it. 6 weeks, he had to get more vaccine. I never had a choice. It was mandatory. When I was going to school, I had to show my vaccination immunization card to show that I was vaccinated when I was traveling. I remember one time some family member was trying to file for me to come to the States, and we had to show our vaccination card. Like, it's like vaccines have always been mandatory. So I don't think it's anything new.
What I'm saying is that there is the newness of being vaccinated, and I don't want us to miss the point of the inequalities. The newness of being vaccinated, I don't think that is what is causing the hesitancy. But as I said, the inconsistency does contribute. So if it was that the information was given, all of it at once, and you would have had some, how should I say? It was clear in terms of this is what is expected, this is what is anticipated. I can remember the person also made a comment that when we first looked at it, person would say, okay, I will get vaccinated because the world is going to come back to normal. There will be no normal.
And I think what Travis was based on how it was presented.
Right.
A lot of
so I'm not saying that I'm not
yourself, you would pretty much, you wouldn't have to deal with this virus no more.
So I am not saying that anything is wrong with being vaccinated or a person taking the vaccine, but I'm saying that speaking from a mental health perspective, and even my own perspective, is that when we look at it generally, we all take in information differently, and we all reason things out differently, and we all have form our own perceptions. And so, Tamara, while you may see the need for the vaccine, or has been, this is vaccine that we have always been taking all our lives. Yes, we have. However, as I said before, and I will continue to say, I'm not saying anything is wrong with the vaccine. I'm not even saying that the mandates and the protocols and the policies don't make sense, because actually they do. However, if we look at how it is sold, then that becomes an issue. We also look at the fact that breathing another issue in terms of, all right, say everybody take AstraZeneca, and you realize the other day, how Jamaica had to basically reach out to, for example, UK, to get them to accept the vaccine code that was used in Jamaica. Then that would also raise another red flag in people's mind. Why would you accept, if all the vaccines are the same, and you are being told to take any vaccine, why does the UK have an issue with accepting the vaccination code from Jamaica? Because Jamaica got the Indian AstraZeneca. And so we realize that a compound of all of those factors put a mental strain on persons. And so while you process the information that way, and you're okay with it, and you reach that, you accept it, and you deal with it, I may process the information quite differently. And because I am different, I may start having doubts in my mind as to say, but why? I may start having doubts in my mind to say, but if we are told that if we take the vaccine, then we would go back to normal, because that is what anticipated and expected. And I think a lot of persons initially went to take the vaccine because they would have thought that the world was going to come back to normal. But then after, as somebody else has commented, that we are faced with the reality that you have the possibility that you will get it. There are persons who say they know persons who are fully vaccinated who still die of COVID. And so persons start getting hesitant and reluctant. But barring all of that, I think we have spoken a lot about the vaccines and all of that.
Yes, because I want to look at two things that you have said. Well, pretty much, Marie. One, the fact that, yes, we have been focusing on the vaccine, but I believe that COVID-19 has brought about so many mental health issues or issues related to mental health that, man, whatever, for me, it was whatever it takes to get rid of this. I want to take it, right? Not only that, for me too, if this virus was contained in a small area, when you look at things like pandemic like Ebola and so on, even MARS and SARS, those were pandemic that we had to deal with, but they were contained in small areas. They didn't, the widespread that we have with COVID-19, we didn't have it with those pandemic. But at the end of the day, you know, they were able to control them, and whatever vaccine and so on, most of us, we never did have to interact or take them and all of that. And it is because COVID has been allowed to spread this much, for me, why it has gotten so much out of hand, right? And that's how virus work. Like virus will continue to mutate, and every time, the more it spread, the more it mutate, and the worse it's gonna get, right? And that is why you have the various mutants, the Delta, the whatever, and so on, right? And if we don't take the vaccine, then it's just gonna keep mutating. It's gonna get worse over and over. But you know, on the flip end of that, Marie and listeners, the impact of people being locked down in their houses, it's been terrible. For me, the side effects are worse than taking the vaccine. What are some of those issues, Nurse Marie, that individuals have had to deal with just being in lockdown, outside of mental health issues, outside of the virus and the vaccine?
So we have one, the stress of being locked down sometimes with a partner that you may have been married for a long time, and you did not
Sorry.
You spend so much time at work. So you are at work, the next person is at work, and now spending a lot of time together can feel some of animosity, and you realize that spending of time together brings a lot of stress. It brings a lot of conflict within the homes, and the loss of resources as well, because a lot of persons have lost their jobs. So that brings about the stress, the frustration, the depression, the suicidal thoughts, the substance abuse, because persons are really getting frustrated. And when we realize also that sometimes persons are getting desperate, and so we recognize that the crime rates are increasing. Persons are getting more depressed. We have more persons seeking help for depression, substance use disorders, anxieties. You recognize that it's like the old way our persons deal with it, your coping mechanisms. You realize sometimes that you would have reached your wit's end. So the coping strategies are being strained. You're not sure what to do. So you're in a state of where do I go? What to do? There's so much uncertainties hanging over your head. You're not sure, you know, what steps to take. You're not sure where to go. You basically sometimes feel like you have no control over your life. Also, you look at the fact that the children are, you know, being home, and a lot of persons would say that while they were working and children going to school, and they could basically go through the day and deal with it differently. Now, when you are at home and you have the children, you have to be teaching. For example, sometimes the professionals, you're at home, you don't know what to do with the children. So you find that child abuse has increased. You realize that rapes have increased even among the children. Where I've seen where there was a report that the older sibling got both younger siblings pregnant. That was last year. There was a thing in the States as well where the child was being abused on the Zoom classroom. So you realize that in addition to the lockdown measures and all of that, it brings a lot of frustration, confusion, the abuse, the incest, the stress,
Yeah.
You know, persons, you can't really go out and socialize as you would have
Mm-hmm.
normally done. It brings a lot of stress. And then you realize that a lot of persons too going online. So you
Mm-hmm.
have a lot of the online predators. So in
Mm-hmm.
all of that, you still realize that a lot of young women are missing. Where are they gone?
Wow.
The loneliness. We look at
Mm-hmm.
even the loneliness of the elderly persons, where a
Yes.
lot of persons suffered
Not able to
mental
see
challenges and
grandchildren
even
and
died
so on.
alone.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You, for example, you go to the hospital, and one time when you go hospital and you have your visitors surrounding you, you have your loved ones coming to visit and all of that.
Wow.
You are now told that you can't have any
You
visitors. So
can't.
mentally,
Mm-hmm.
you are strained. Mentally,
Wow.
it brings a pressure on you that even sometimes when you're really going through a lot, all you need
Yes.
sometimes is just that person to hold your hand.
Yes.
And
Yes.
in some cases, you're not getting that. And not being just a
Mm-hmm.
diagnosis of COVID, but you may have, say, you have a heart problem. You have
Mm-hmm.
whatever other issues that you have, and you're maybe admitted to hospital. And then the
Right.
protocol maintain that, okay, visitors are restricted or there are no
Right.
visitors at one point in time or whatever. So you basically go through that issue alone. And even though, yes, we have the social media platforms that we can go on, we can give your call and whatever,
See
that
a lot
still
of mad
does not
people coming
replace the
out on
fact.
social media too. A lot of people doing a lot of madness on social media, and it just
Yes.
goes through that because people are in lockdown and they're trying to find ways and means to occupy their time. You know, you see them coming out, and it's just demonstrating that these people are suffering from mental health issues.
So you realize that there are a lot of challenges.
Yeah.
For example, you have persons now will come out, and when you look at the amount of things that persons are even posting on social media, you really
Yeah.
wonder if they are thinking. You realize that the rational thinking sometimes has been dissipated. It's
Yeah.
like, okay, you do these things to get the like, you get the views. Some
Yeah.
of the things you really wonder which ones do you take serious and which ones you do
Right.
not.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Persons post things and you wonder, and then they would say, oh, this post is not about me. But
Right.
once you post it, it means that it is something that you actually are thinking.
Yeah.
It is
Mm-hmm.
something that connects with you.
Yeah.
Because if it wasn't that something that you were thinking or it doesn't resonate with, then you wouldn't have sat down and have that inspiration to write it.
Right. Right. Mm-mm. Wow.
So
Mm.
in terms of we have to try at this point as best as possible to
Right.
address some of the issues that we face in
Mhm.
terms of, yes, there are challenges, but what do we do?
Mhm.
Do we just throw our
Right.
hands in the towel and give up?
Mm-hmm.
Do we
Mm-hmm.
just bicker against each other? Because
Right.
honestly,
Mm-hmm.
there are so many things that we need to help with this problem. It is
Yes.
like a perennial problem. We look at the
Mhm.
fact that there are a lot of persons who are suffering. There are a lot of
Right.
persons who are struggling. The
Right.
government can do so much and no more.
No
And
more.
so
Right.
we recognize that even though there were a lot of persons in the pandemic who have lost their jobs and going through a lot of mental health issues, some
Mm-hmm.
persons use the challenges for good. And
Mm-hmm.
so you have some persons coming up with their entrepreneurial skills. You have a
Right.
lot of new businesses being born out of the
Mm-hmm.
pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
I have seen where, for example, even here in Provo, where some persons during the pandemic, when the construction sites and stuff were allowed to open, there are a lot of persons who cook and
Okay.
they put their meals in the back of their vehicle and they
Right.
start going out and going to the construction sites and they bring
Mhm.
the food to you. So they
Wow.
bring, and that's not like a normal
Yeah.
restaurant that usually would do the business, but
Mm-hmm.
they
Mm-hmm.
would basically at home now wondering what to do. I need to feed my family
Right.
and all of that. And so persons
Mm-hmm.
start using their innovative skills. There are
Yes.
different skills that come to reborn. So there are persons who take the challenge and they give up on life.
Mm-hmm.
Some persons may even decide to commit suicide. There are
Mm.
some persons also who decided to use the channel the energy into a more
Right.
positive way
Positive
and have
way.
started
Mhm.
businesses and doing other things to improve on themselves.
Right.
Another thing that we have to bear in mind in terms of bridging the gap to the
Mm-hmm.
inequality and helping each other mentally is that
Mm-hmm.
supporting each other. And
Right.
during the pandemic, we have seen where, yes, there are a lot of persons who tear down because there are a lot of persons who listen to comments and not
Mm-hmm.
really listen to gain something from what is being said.
Right.
And so,
Right.
even if you are saying something real
Mm-hmm.
positive, You will always find the naysayers. You will always find the persons who have the negative connotations to come with it. There are always going to be persons who are going to misinterpret what you say and have their own perceptions. And so in terms of offering that support for each other, you offer the support. You be there for the persons physically. If you have excess resources, share it with somebody else. Even sometimes if it is a loaf of bread. There are some persons who you think are not struggling and they are struggling. But because of the shame and the pride, they may be afraid to come and ask you for it. And so in terms of offering that support to somebody else is that you look beyond what that person may look. And sometimes rather than asking the person if you want the thing, just offer it. Because sometimes you realize that you may ask somebody, do you like so and so? They'll say no. But if you offer it, they may gladly take it. So it is in terms of how do we support each other. You have more, you share with somebody else. So you can share a meal, you can share a little grocery. If you realize that your cupboard is full, you can try to identify somebody within your community who may have children or who may have a need, and to share something with them. Share a kind word. Sometimes even sharing a smile or a purr really builds somebody's day. Right. So we also look at the fact that we have to demonstrate some form of empathy. Put yourself in the other person's position. What would I do, or how would I feel if I was in this space? Because as I say, if you use sympathy, you're gonna feel sorry for the person. So you may end up taking on that burden onto yourself. So use empathy more. Put yourself in that person's position. So in tackling the inequalities and dealing with what is happening around us, we have to be empathetic. And as you rightfully said earlier, is approaching life with an open mind. However, we still have to face the fact that not all of us are going to think alike. Not all of us are going to process information alike. But it doesn't mean that in any way that person is worse off than the other person because they have a different view. Another thing that we also have to look at is being aware of our own thoughts and feelings. Be self-aware. If I'm put in this position, how does my own perception or how does my thoughts and my feelings influence how I relate to others? So say for example, if we look just a while ago and how both of us view the whole vaccine scenario, you may look at it and say there's nothing, you don't think that people or persons should basically then have the type of resistance that they have. Well, my perspective may be different in terms of how do you view the information, how is it processed? And so I may look at it that it's not that I'm agreeing with you or I'm disagreeing. I just look at the fact that persons view information different, persons process things quite differently. And so the end result would be the differences that exist. Throughout time, you will not find everybody conforming to things. Conformity, not everybody will. There will always be persons who have their own opinions and will stick to them. Right. So we also have to look at the cultural differences. And culture plays a huge role in how these things are looked at. So for example, we may look at the inequalities. For example, the other day with the situation in the US with the different persons seeking refuge in the United States, where one set of persons may be accepted like in one way, another person may be looked at in, like, for example, another way. You look at, for example, even 80 is looked at in one sense. And then sometimes when you basically speak with some Asians, they will tell you that, oh, we are resilient people. I will not get the COVID. I will not get the vaccine. I will not. So you realize that the culture or our way of life also influence our perception. And that is one of the things that we have to look about, that we will not have it equal straight across. We are always going to have the inequalities. We're always going to have different opinions because there are different factors that impact on how we believe. So our culture plays a very important role. We have religion. that comes into play as we go through this unequal world that we live in. We have the religion that comes in. Because sometimes persons may think that it is okay for them to pray, and they will pray the whole situation away, which is not necessarily so. You can't pray it away because God may not remove the situation. He may let you get. So you realize that there are different factors that compound on our person's mental health. So your culture plays a very important role. Your religious beliefs plays a very important role. Your own personal value systems and attitudes play an important role. You have to look at, regardless of how we think that we are self-sufficient and we make our own decisions and choices. We all are influenced by our surroundings.
Right.
And it's that we are influenced in a positive or negative way. So we're influenced by the people who we associate ourselves with. So if you associate yourself with all pessimists, eventually you're going to be pessimist.
You become a pessimist.
So if you encircle yourself with optimists, eventually you're optimistic.
And as Joyce Meyer said that surround yourselves with.
Right. So and as Joyce Meyer said that you cannot have a positive life with a negative mind. So what is it that you are feeding your mind into? That plays a very important role. So we realize educational background also plays an important role. So you will find that persons who are educated in a way may view things differently. They may take different approaches than the persons who are quote unquote not as educated. So we realize that there are a number of factors that contribute to the inequality.
Here making that comment. Yeah, it's people make choices based on their knowledge base.
Right. So you look at the fact that in as much as there are a lot of factors that contribute to the inequalities, there are also a lot of factors that compound how we view things and how we as a person process them and how we as a person deal with our own mental health.
Right. Wow. So I have two questions for you. We have pretty much about 6 minutes to wrap up here, Nurse Brown. Two questions. So similarly, so you have probably alluded to some of the answers in your presentation there just now. But similarly, like how we take care of our physical body. So I know I have to eat healthy, I have to exercise and all of those things. Rest properly, get in my recreational activities and so on. Tell me maybe about 3 or 4 things that we need to do to maintain our mental health.
Amazingly, pretty much some of the same things that you do to take care of your physical health. Because one, when you exercise, it increases your blood flow. It increases your endorphins. It increases your serotonin level. The exercise makes you feel good. It also makes you rest better. In addition to that, your nutrition. What you eat affects how you think. And what you eat contributes to illnesses and your wellness. And so if you're sick, then that is going to affect your mental health. And when we look at where we are now, like once upon a time, they looked at health conditions as being when you are older. But now when you look at the life course model of health that looks at how do we live from we were pregnant, from we were in the womb until when we were adults. So it is realized that a lot of the chronic illnesses that we have in our middle ages stem from how we lived when we were younger. So eat right, exercise, stay away from substances. So avoid the alcohol, avoid the smoking. As we said, that and exercise, take a break when you need it. Ensure that you listen to your body. So your body always speaks. So if you feel overwhelmed, you start feeling tired, you start feeling backache, the headache and the stresses, then you have to try and deal with the stresses that you face because your body is going to tell you. Get supportive people in your corner.
Yes.
Try to stay away from the negativity. Get a skill or a hobby. During the pandemic, I learned to bake bread. And so try to learn a skill. Crochet, paint, do something that stimulates your mind. And most
Right.
importantly, try to have a winning type of attitude. Your
Wow.
attitude, they say your attitude determines your altitude. So your
Yes.
attitude towards life will determine how far you go. Is it that you're
Oh,
going to take your challenges and you're going to
wow.
just put them on top of yourself and lay them down on
Mhm.
you? Or is it that
Mhm.
you're going to take challenges and make a bridge with them and go forward?
Right. Right.
Another thing in taking care of your mental health as well is that be mindful of the information that you feed to yourself.
Mhm.
As I
Mhm.
said, we all process information differently. We all
Yeah.
think differently.
Mhm.
And so,
Mhm.
throughout the whole scenario, there will be different thoughts. There will be different
Yes.
school of thought.
Mhm.
So you have to
Mhm.
be able to process what is true from what is
Mhm.
not. So
Wow.
those are basically some of the tips that you can
I
basically
need
use
to
to deal
do.
with mental health.
Wow. So my final question to you, Nurse Brown. So we have to get regular checkups for
Right.
physical health. And I know a lot of people, there is a stigma that is associated with persons maybe coming to see a psychiatrist or a psychologist or a therapist, a counselor, and so on. Do we need to wait until we are, deal with quote unquote mental illness, or we perceive that we have mental illness to come and talk with a psychiatric nurse or a counselor? I mean, what is the recommendation?
All right. The recommendation is that most mental health services have an open door policy. So there are
Mm-hmm.
cases we take patients by referral. We take
Mm-hmm.
patients from schools, we take patients from the hospital, and we also take patients who walk in. So if it is
Okay.
that you feel overwhelmed or you just need a
Mm-hmm.
quiet place to vent, that service is
Mm-hmm.
available.
Wow.
And so we offer this service where persons can basically come in. We have a number of persons who come in. There's nothing, they're not at the stage where they are mentally challenged, but they may
Right.
just feel like they need a confidential place to vent.
Yes.
That service is
Mm-hmm.
also offered. So if you feel
Mm-hmm.
like you are overwhelmed, you just feel like
Mm-hmm.
there is something on your mind that you need to talk about, it is
Mm-hmm.
okay for you
Mm-hmm.
to find one of the mental health services wherever it is.
Mm-hmm.
It is available throughout
Mm-hmm.
the world, and you can just talk to somebody. Have a
Right.
vent
Right.
buddy even.
Mm-hmm.
Do not
Mm-hmm.
wait until you start getting symptomatic. And I just want to add that mental health is no respecter of persons. I've seen
Mm-hmm.
persons who are CEOs, who are nurses, police officers, doctors, who
Mm-hmm.
are lawyers, beggars, thieves, who have had mental
Mm-hmm.
health issues. And
Wow.
not just a label, but being diagnosed with a
Was
mental
yeah.
health condition. And a lot
Mm-hmm.
of persons who are professionals who access
Mm-hmm.
service, they take
Mm-hmm.
their medication consistently. They um
Wow.
they do the other things like dieting, exercise, and whatever. Be
Mm-hmm.
consistent with their medication, and they live
Mm-hmm.
100%
Mm-hmm.
normal life. And people
So
don't even know that they have a
that
mental illness.
so what you have said there just now has pushed me to ask you another question. When do you know that you? What are some signs or symptoms of mental illness? When do you know that you are? What is it that you look for in a patient? I don't know if this is something that you can disclose to know that this person to determine that they can be diagnosed with a mental health issue.
All right. So one of the first thing is that sometimes the person who is mentally ill, or for example, a person who is new, was never had a problem before, one of the
Mhm.
first things that comes into play is denial. And it depends on the mental health condition. So
Wow.
there are a number of things that we look for. One, because mental illness affects the mind, so it
Mhm.
affects the way the person think, the
Mhm.
person
Mhm.
and will in turn affects the person's beliefs and the person's actions. So those
Mhm.
are the things that you look for. Is this
Mhm.
person starting to demonstrate a different way of thinking? Is the thought rational?
Right.
Are the things that they are now saying, does it make sense?
Right.
So you look at sometimes persons tend to starting to get some warped beliefs. There are some
Mhm.
persons who get extremely overly religious.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, there are some persons they just start talking things that really don't make sense. So you look at
Mhm.
what are the persons saying. So that would reflect their thought process.
Mhm.
Two,
Mhm.
you look at the person's behavior. Is this
Right.
person getting anxious? Is the person getting withdrawn? Um,
Mhm.
How about the self-care? Is this person starting to take care of themselves overly? So you realize that the makeup start getting too bright and too loud and doesn't really match. Is the clothes, yes, clean and ironed, but it don't really match? Is the person now stop taking care of themselves? Do they stop combing their hair? Do they start coming out on the road in a that person is normally clean and well put together? Do they start coming out now in a dirty pair of shoes?
Right.
You know, the foot looking white, the clothes start looking disheveled. Is it now that this person that you usually talk to, is it now that this person refuses to talk to you? They lock themselves away. You realize that there are changes in the way the person operates at work. Is it now that even if you're in a relationship with the person, does this person start getting aggressive, irritable, start snapping at everything? Is the person getting very tearful? Do you observe that the person starts smoking when they never used to? Do you realize that observe that the person start drinking when they never used to? Those are some of the things that you look for. Basically change in the way the person talks, the person behaves, and the belief systems that is portrayed. Might I add that there are some persons who struggle mentally, but on the outside, they seem okay. So you also have to look at the overachievers. And believe it or not, they say overachievers also fall on the spectrum of mental illness.
Are you
so
serious?
we look at the overachievers. We look at the fact that is this person trying too hard to bring off perfectionism? That is also a red flag.
Right.
Is it that this person trying so hard to please the boss or to please somebody else? So we look at the flip side. So we look at the negative side in the deterioration of the behavior in a negative sense, but we also look at the persons who go the excess, because there can be someone who is extremely busy for the entire day, and at the end of the day, they basically did nothing because the focus is not there to complete one task. So you realize they are here, but the mind is not focused. They gone to this one, gone to that one. So at the end of the day, we're busy, tired, but accomplishing
nothing. Wow. That's why I do my to-do list. I tick them off.
Right. So those are some of the things that we also look at. And might I add, be observant of the persons who are around you.
Yes.
Look at what the person say. One of the things that you look for is themes in this person's conversation. Is this person start talking about a particular theme, especially when it comes on to depression and suicidal thoughts? Sometimes the person may not come out and say, I'm going to kill myself. But you hear that person planning their escape. Well, life is not worth living. Why am I here? It doesn't make sense. It doesn't matter. Why am I doing this thing? You might find that they start giving away things that they like. They start giving away their possessions. Somebody might go make a will. Some cases, you hear they start talking about life is not worth living, and what would you do without me? What would you do if I was gone, if I was no longer here? You look for all of those signs to say that this person may be thinking about committing suicide. So is it that this person making plans for their exit from life? Are they telling you in subtle ways? They may not come out and say, Tamara, I'm gonna kill myself, or I'm gonna kill myself. But what are the red flags? We also look at women, and we recognize also that this is very common in women with the parasuicidal thoughts and tendencies. So while a man may commit suicide, because the whole mind of a man is different, men are more aggressors. So a man might put a gun to his head and shoot it off. Or a man might go on a tree and tie a rope around his neck and jump off. While a woman, on the other hand, is usually parasuicidal. A lot of times when a woman commits suicide, is that they don't really want to die. It's just like an attempt on bad. So a woman drinks something and tell somebody that they do it. Or they may take doses of medication, but not in a lethal dose where it's going to kill you. So you look for those things, because a lot of persons are struggling silently. And that is why I say be kind to each other. Because you don't know what another person is struggling even though look okay on the outside.
Yes.
We wear nice
But
clothes, we go about our business, we have jobs, but we just don't know what is going on with those persons mentally. So be
wow.
kind to each other.
Wow. So tell us, Nurse Brown, the name of the department that you work in. I mean, if anybody is here watching and would want to access the services, and if you have maybe a contact number, we could share it on the screen.
All
It's
right,
Department
so
of Health
Department of Mental Health and Substance Dependence.
and Substance.
And substance dependence.
And what's the number?
All right, 338-5473. There are a number of numbers which I don't have all of them in my head, but if you give me like 30 seconds, I can get them for you.
All right. No problem. 5473.
Yes.
All right.
Just give me a second, please.
Sure. Wow, guys, what a healthy discussion this morning on mental health. And you realize that we are being affected by so much inequality when it comes down to dealing with mental health issues, right? At the end of the day, mental health illness is no respecter of person. It doesn't wear a face. You can look at an individual and say, yeah, that person has mental health issues, maybe because the person is well dressed, the person is driving a nice car, the person has a good job, they live in a beautiful home, and so on. Because there are just so many people out there that's dealing with mental health issues, and we have to be kind. Nurse Marie, she said it. We have to be kind to each other because we really don't know what people are going through. We look and we see individuals and we see them get up every day, but we don't know, guys, what they are going through. So today, as we celebrated Mental Health Day yesterday under the theme mental health in an unequal world, it doesn't matter what you have, it doesn't matter who you are, where you're from, take care of your mental health, right? If it means that you need to do a walk-in visit to the doctor or to the hospital or to the mental health department, go ahead and do so, just like how you take care of your physical health. I do a yearly checkup for my physical health. I need to start doing a yearly checkup too for my mental health. I just need to do that. All right, Nurse Marie, you have the numbers?
Right, yes. And so the area code for persons who do not live in TCI is 649.
Yes.
So the other numbers are 338-4737 and 338-3613.
338-36.
3613.
All right. So are you saying that
We
even
also have a Facebook page. So you can visit the Facebook page as well.
All right. Okay.
The office that I work is a 338-5473 number. That's a direct line as well. So it comes directly to us. You don't go through our operator for that one.
Okay. Which one of them is you?
5473. So we have 3 persons that work at that office. We have a psychiatrist and 2 mental health nurses.
And you're at Facebook and Instagram?
Yes, we are. And in the department, we have a psychiatrist, we have 3 psychologists, we have substance abuse counselors, and we have mental health nurses. So it is different staff that deal with different issues. So if it is that you feel like you need some help, you can feel free to visit us at one of our online platforms, or you can call the office, or you can basically come in. We have an office in Grand Turk. We have 2 offices in Providenciales. We have one in downtown and one at the Cheshire All Medical Center. And the psychiatrists and psychologists also visit the Outbase Islands on all the inhabited islands on a monthly basis. So there is help whichever way.
So what if you do not want to go into the hospital or the offices? Would the psychologist or the psychiatrist be willing to visit you in your home?
Yes, we basically do home visits, but home visits is really based on consent.
Okay.
There are a lot of persons who even persons who access the service do not want home visits.
Right.
So home visit is basically based on consent. So yes, we do home visits. We normally do home visits on a Friday. We also do community visits. So there are times when we go in particular communities and we visit the persons who we have in that community, who are persons who access the clinic and request home visits. And we also visit persons who are, say, lost to follow up. We sometimes go in the community and look for them as well.
Right.
But on a regular, we only do home visits based on say, for example, the person's request and the person's consent, because you know that can have issues as well.
Right.
Right.
Wow, Nurse Brown, what a healthy discussion this morning. Thank you so much for joining in. Thank you so much for sharing. I am sure, we have benefited greatly from the information that you have shared. And I hope that persons will really take the opportunity to call these numbers, visit the Facebook pages or Instagram, and really just reach out. If you feel that you have any form of mental health issues, guys, if you feel like, your depression is coming on, maybe every day of the week instead of maybe one time for the month when it's near to your period or so, you want to make sure that you are okay. Take a checkup, do a mental health check today, and see how you are doing. So again, Nurse Brown, thank you so much for being here. Any final thoughts before we go?
Final thoughts before we go is that ensure that you take care of your mental health just as much as you take care of your physical health, because there's no good health without good mental health. Be aware that mental health also is, or mental illness is no respecter of persons. And there's a very thin line between sanity and insanity, because sometimes we have even predisposing hereditary factors that we are not even aware about, that is sometimes brought on by life circumstances. And so let us all bear in mind that, we are all on that spectrum, and be kind to each other, and let us look out. Mental health is always my baby, right? I love mental health. So one of the things that I always encourage persons is to look out for the most vulnerable around you. And the most vulnerable is the children, the elderly, and the persons with disability, and persons with mental illness. So we encourage persons to look out for those persons, offer them support. If you can, offer to help out within our service. For example, Jamaica, when I was in Jamaica, we had a healthy community thing going on where persons who have shops and so in the communities would basically take the medication for us, and they know the mentally ill persons who live in their community. And I would also want to big up, what is his name again? From Mansion Hill. He has a shop, Tamara, right in Mansion Hill Square. Right in front of the gas station, Mr. Palmer.
Mr. Palmer,
across from the gas station. So, I just want to big up Mr. Palmer.
That's a wonderful man. God bless him.
He normally felt so good when we were there, because
persons in Mansion Hill who have mental health issues. Yeah, I remember that.
And he normally would take the medication from us.
Oh my God!
He gives them food and he gives them their pill. There's this lady in Black Hills, but I don't remember her name. She normally would take the medication as well and give them. And so if we have that kind of community support, we have to support and help each other. And instead of stoning the vulnerable, let us look out for them and help them.
Wow. What a beautiful note to end on, guys. What a beautiful note. Mental health is everybody's business. And if you have family members, if you have friends, people in your community that's dealing with mental health illness, then whatever way you can help, let us reach out, guys, and help them. show that you care today. Thank you again, Nurse Brown. For those persons who joined
Thank
in
you.
today, Mitzi, Trevor, Reverend Jennifer, I see you here, Travis. Thank you so much, guys, for being here. And thank you for contributing to the conversation. We will certainly do it again. Remember, it's Breast Cancer Month. And we will be having a conversation reminding you, ladies, the importance of doing your mammogram once you get 40 and over. And ladies, doing your breast examinations every day. Is it every day that we need to do it? Or whenever the time is? I don't know. The doctor will tell you when the doctor comes on. So, Nurse Brown, you take care, my dear. Thank you so much for being here
Thank
again.
you.
And all
All right.
right.
Have a good day, everybody.
Bye, honey.
And be
Bye bye.
safe.
All right.
Bye.
You too. Have a great day. Bye, guys. Have a wonderful day.